Hello, Baltimore Comic Con. This is Christian Gossett, bringing you a quick live drawing session with Shadia Elise, the famous model. I'm really excited about this to talk to all you guys. I have no idea who else is on. I just know that I am. And so if you are on, go ahead and say hello. And there's Shadia. Hello,
Hi.
Shadia. Hey, great to see you.
Great to see you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So Alec or John, how do we know who else is in? Because I'd like to start by asking a question of those who are here in attendance. No, it's just us.
And but opportunity to see if you like the lighting and the
yeah.
I would obviously, guys, we're gathering the group, so I would start with conversation amongst yourselves.
Fantastic. Thanks, John. That's great. Yes, please, Shadia. Please show us the first pose you're thinking of doing. I like the lighting. It's great. Nice contrast.
Lighting's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not blown out anywhere. There's core shadow.
There's core shadow. You're not blown out too much at all. It's great.
Okay, awesome. And what did you want to start with as far as minutes, so I can kind of gauge the poses again?
Something full body like you are, which is great. And I don't know, something kind of neutral, not too dramatic for the first one, kind of a basic, so I can go over the body.
Okay, so maybe some like negative space, but let me see. So I can go really dynamic, so I gotta like.
Yeah, no. For now, something's nice. Or something more open, actually. That's closed with the leg.
Yeah. Well, actually, if you want open, I got a good one.
Great.
Something like this.
Fantastic. How's that for you?
Yeah. How long do you want to hold that?
That's great. What do you usually hold this one at? A nice quick one would be great for a warm up.
Anywhere from 3 to 5.
All right. Let's do we'll do a 3 on that one.
Okay. Sounds good. And so you want both of them pretty like I'd say standard, basic, not too crazy, just so you can get anatomy.
Exactly. And because for these first ones, what I'm going to be doing for people is kind of talking to them about how you approach a model, how you approach drawing the body in life.
Yes.
And so things like that. So a nice neutral like that is great because it kind of keeps you open up and shows everything.
Right. Okay, perfect. And you want to let me know when you want to switch times, otherwise I'll keep sticking with whatever you had me on. Right on.
I will. Do you want me to time? I can time. Yeah, I'll time.
I have a timer, but if you want to time, that's
no. If you time, that's better.
Okay. Yeah.
No, there's definitely no like. It's been 5 minutes and I'm still babbling at the people, and you're like, "Hello, pose is over."
Yeah. I'll just yeah. Do you want me just going right into the next pose, or do you want me to take a little pause?
Take a little pause, and I'll take a little pause.
Yeah, and then you can be like next pose, and I'll stick to 3s unless you tell me let's do 5s now, let's do 10s.
Yeah.
Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Awesome.
Cool. And that when you were just that distance from camera that you just were, I'd like to do one there too at some point.
Yeah, so what I can do, let me see where I'm at now, is I can just scoot it.
Right. Cool.
Like that, and then you can get like, you know.
Nice. Yeah, the obliques and all that nice stuff.
Right. Bam.
Exactly. Cool. Hey, so my buddy Jim Mitchell was like, he's an artist that has worked for Disney forever. He's a Disney legend, and he was like, "You're doing a session with Shadia. That's so cool." I was like, "She's famous."
Oh my gosh, I don't know about that, but
so many of my artist friends from Disney were like, "Oh, you're working with Shadia. Lucky you." I was like, "Cool."
I love Disney. I love the artists there. They're so sweet.
Yeah, they really are.
I miss them. Yeah, and Julia Diller said to tell you hi.
Julia Diller, that's so cool. She is so amazing.
She is. I just modeled for her like last 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago. Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, yeah, she's great. I modeled privately at her little studio. I love it.
Gosh, I might have seen you there because I used to draw at her studio a couple years ago.
Yeah, I just started this past year. Yeah, so we just miss each other.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. Here we are. So, hi. I have a question from John I'm going to address. Yeah. No, we can't see me drawing. The whole point was for me to kind of just talk people through Yeah, but we can, yeah, you're right. We can solo her for sure. John and Alec are discussing, do we need my face on there? And not really. As long as we can hear me, then everything is cool. All right. And so Shadia, for whoever is, for the benefit of our listeners, let them know where they can contact you for sessions after today.
Sure, you can find me on my Instagram. It's my first name, SHADIA _ my middle name, Elise, ELISE. So it'll be exactly what's written. Where are we? Where's the little, there we go. So my name, but just an underscore in between that. And
Awesome.
you can contact me for project, rate, what have you. Just as long as it's respectful and good idea.
That's right. Keep it pro, people.
Yeah.
For the sake of you knowing who the heck you're listening to, I'm Christian Gossett. I have been a professional. I started as a professional comic artist at the age of 19. Moved over to Dark Horse Comics, doing Tales of the Jedi in my early 20s, where I was the originator of the double-bladed lightsaber that came off of my desk. Went to Lucasfilm from Star Wars comic books. I'm very proud of that. From there, I went to Activision and had a very fun video game career. From Activision, I went into television and currently working on Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead as a story artist, where all of my life drawing skills are being used every day. I'm so grateful that I committed to life drawing, as you should be as well, because it is the fundamental skill that you will always be able to use no matter what medium or platform you're working in: television, video games, story art, concept design. What Shadia is going to help us with today is the core. It's the base model. It's the scales if you're a musician. It's the shooting baskets if you're a basketball player. So here we go. If you're ready, Shadia.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and talk them through. This is what we call an open pose. And Shadia, please feel free also to throw in. I know you're a very experienced model, so if you hear some stuff that you think would be valuable for them to hear and know, please go ahead and shout it out. We'll make this a collab. Doesn't have to be all me talking. Cool. So as you guys can see, life drawing is... All right, Ziggy, welcome, welcome. I'm going to go ahead and welcome Ziggy Inkwell here and say this first pose shows us exactly why you want to be doing life drawing, because the body acts in unexpected ways. As you can see here, the connections between her right hip and her knee, that's not something you would automatically assume if you're only working from memory, or if you're looking at your favorite anime or comics. That stuff is like, if you just draw from that, you already know the limitations of your results. Life drawing gets you to that place where even if you are going to kind of exaggerate for the sake of heroic fiction, even if you are going to kind of make it your own style, you still have to know the rules before you can set your own or break them. And this is a wonderful example why. Look at the relationship between the right shoulder and the right bicep, right? Look at those muscles working together. Look at the effect on the neck. Look at her, the neck there in relation to the clavicle, right? This is what, if you are drawing with us, I'd like you to go ahead and concentrate on that area now. And look at the distance. Life drawing is about learning the measurements and not learning them like, hey, in a way that is kind of book learned kind of way, learning them with your hands, learning them with your muscles, teaching yourself how to draw so that by the time the signal goes into your eyeball, down your shoulder, and through your hand all the way to your stylus, your muscles have been trained to respond in such a way that it looks like the way it's supposed to look. That is how we do it. That's how we've been doing it since Da Vinci, or Da Vinci, for those of you who love TikTok. But yeah, that's the way we do it. We train our muscles and our mind to respond. And like, there's no better way than life drawing. I know we're in a totally wonderful digital age, and that's fantastic. Believe me, I love drawing on my Cintiq using Storyboard Pro. However, the same old fundamentals support those technologies. So fundamentals like that, what we're seeing right now in this pose. I'm going to draw your attention to the relationship between the left leg and the upper body. See that swoop? If I could draw, maybe on a subsequent pose today, I will attempt to share screen, Alec, or yeah, Alex on my Da Vinci joke. Thanks to my daughter for showing me that. Are we done? That's
Yes,
3? Fantastic. Thank you, Shadia. Shadia can take a little break while I talk to you guys about that flow. In the next pose, which Shadia will be showing us in a moment, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do gesture. For those of you who have life drawn before, you're going to know that gesture is all about those first swoopy lines, right? It's the big lines. It's not the little tiny kind of detail lines. It's the big lines. And that's what you want to be focusing on whenever you do start a life drawing, because that is the difference between something stiff, that stiff stuff that we all hate. We draw something, we see it in our mind so vividly, and then we draw it and it's stiff. Why is that? It's because we haven't warmed up with enough life drawing yet, and we haven't concentrated on gesture. So that is what we're about to do next. We're not going to rush into any pose here, but Shadia, I do would like to ask, what do you think the next pose? What do you think for the next one?
I usually like to go 360, just so you get a good taste of all directions.
Fantastic.
So I'm going to do a profile. I'll still have negative space in between the legs, and I'll add a little gesture with the hand to give it some swoop and some line, a little bit of a seeker.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. Whenever you're ready. Awesome, awesome. All right, so this is a fantastic pose to talk about that motion line. Look at the top of her right elbow, and then through the shoulder, down through the torso, through the thoracic, and down all the way to the beautifully pointed toes down at the bottom. Look at that motion line. For those of you who are drawing at home, I want you to just swoop that. Don't worry about anything except for a nice, clean, unbroken line of energy. Just leave it on the page like a sword, like you're swishing a sword. For those of you that have done life drawing before, you're already ahead of this. But for those of you who are beginning, I want to go ahead and go nice and slow and kind of guide you guys through the way we do it. The first line I would attack in this pose would be, yes, it definitely does. Holding these poses is a skill. And that's why I really like today's session. Thank you, Baltimore Comic-Con Live, for giving us a chance to really show you what the models know as well. It's very, very easy to think, and it's a real kind of it's a myth that the models are just kind of, you know, that there isn't a lot of skill and experience necessary to do this work. As you can hear from Shadia, you're hearing it from the model's point of view today as well. And if you are a young life artist and you are smart enough to save your money, get together with some artists and hire a model and bring them into a space where you can draw. It doesn't have to be a fancy studio. It does have to be professional and courteous, and it has to be clean is good. A nice space to work in. You guys know what I'm talking about. If you're smart enough to go ahead and do that for yourselves, and you haven't done it much, include the artist, okay? Include the artist that is the model, okay? So getting back to the pose, look at the rib cage now. We've gone from big, so the big swoop would be the elbow to the left leg, then the right leg. That's the next one I would attack. I would go from the pelvic region down to the knee with another kind of clean sword slash, and then from the knee down to the foot. And then I would capture that foot. And then I would also take a line from the right foot to the left foot to establish the relationship between them, because that helps perspective. We have this, Shadia has done us a favor today by posing in this corner, which gives you three angles of perspective. We have the left-right behind her. We have another clean perspective angle that is behind her left foot. And then we have, of course, the vertical. Use those. Please feel free to include those in your sketches, and then draw them also all the way up. That line on the floor, those diagonal lines on the floor, continue those up the drawing. Repeat them so that you have a kind of grid behind her. And using a grid is also an ancient technique. We use grids in life drawing because, thank you, Shadia. Awesome. That was a great pose.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, sure. So much nice. That was very dynamic, actually. And it really gave me a lot of, I could have talked about that one for a long time. This is really fun so far. I hope everybody at home is is having a blast, and please feel free to post comments in the chat and I will address them. I want to take a moment before the next pose, to introduce you guys to the Asaro head. For those of you who want to draw life, the Asaro head is invaluable. It is a classic sculpture. I got lucky. I found mine. Someone had discarded theirs in an alley, and I found it, and I was like, this is destiny. So I was able to take this. Hey, buddy, what's up? Saved him from the dumpster, and because that's how we do this. So you can see the angles very cleanly here of the head. Head anatomy this is a male, of course, but there are women models as well. If you can find one of these, if you can get together with your artist friends and purchase one, invaluable. I also want to give a shout out to a good friend of mine, a great anatomy teacher, Steven Silver. For those of you who are, the internet these days, it's really hard to find which one's good, which one's bad, like which teacher should I follow. You cannot go wrong with Steven Silver. I make no money from this endorsement. This is just because I want you guys to have your best life possible as artists. Steven Silver's The Silver Way. You cannot go wrong. It's an amazing book for you guys to get. I'll have some other recommendations as well today. But Shadia, let's go ahead and talk about the next pose.
Okay, I'm just going to do a back pose.
Great.
Also really important. A little bit of contrapposto.
Nice.
And crossing of the legs, since I just did some with some negative spacing of legs.
Shadia, for the sake of our new life artists, please explain contrapposto for them.
Yeah, it's where the weight is bearing on one side, so it will be an uneven shift. You can see a little bit of an S curve. So this is like straight on. A contrapposto is going to be something like this.
Awesome.
See them here.
Fantastic.
The pipeline that goes.
Exactly. Awesome. Thank you. No, it's great. Thank you. It's so great. This terminology is important.
Okay. And tell me if you can see everything.
Yeah, great. The lighting is nice too. Again, in every pose, we start with the large forms and then we move in. Thank you, Michael Cooper. Yep. So here we are again. This time it's the left elbow. I would attack that left elbow. I would go ahead and do the right angle. I would do the small move first and probably follow the hand down over the head, and then swoop down from the left elbow all the way down to the foot. And even though I would be tempted to draw that foot right away, I would leave it alone. We're staying with the big forms. It's tempting because that's why we life draw, to see the fact that the human form is a fluid form. It is as much about ovoids and circular motions as it is about angles and bones. And so life drawing is the greatest way for us to see this. Look at that foot, you guys. Would you ever expect the foot to perform that way, right? And yet that's why we life draw, because it's unexpected. Then I would go to the contrapposto. I would go to the pelvic region and I would make a line. And the great thing about a bikini is it shows you that diagonal. Note that diagonal. That is exactly the line that you want to make with your stylus. Of whichever kind you're working, digital or traditional, that shows you the line there. Now notice the contrast between, this is where contrapposto comes on, we call it the twist. Note the contrast between that diagonal on the pelvis and the one all the way up at her shoulders, right? It's an opposite diagonal. The diagonal at the lower thoracic is lower on the left, and the diagonal up at the shoulder is higher on the left, right? Notice that you do give yourself your two diagonals, and then your spine can be drawn as a nice curve in between the two diagonals. And that is the scaffolding, the structure upon which you want to build the rest of your life drawing. You take that nice gesture down, the right leg, then we can take our right leg and then we go down for that complicated relationship, that complicated spatial relationship between the right knee and the floor. Look at the right knee, how much of it is coming out from behind the left leg. Where is it emerging from behind the left leg, right? Again, nothing better than life drawing to show you these relationships. So we look at that right knee, we go down, and again, look at the perspective look at the points. Think about drawing points on your page. So when I say points, what do I mean? What I mean is I would draw a point at the heel. I draw a little point at the heel, and then I would make a line dashing up to the toe to catch that diagonal. to catch that measurement. How far is the toe from the heel? What angle is it at in relation to the vertical of the leg? Now we're going to, all right, and that's that one. Really great pose.
Thank you.
Yeah, Shadia is a veteran. So again, Shadia, where can they reach you if they want to hire you for a session?
So it's the name that you're seeing. I am really not fantastic at pointing to where it is there.
There you go.
Where you see my first and my middle name. My Instagram is the easiest way to contact me. It's just my first name that you see _ Elise. That's my Instagram handle. Same for my email. It's shadia.elise@gmail. So
Hey, Shadia, would you like to change now? Is this a good changing time?
I can.
Yeah, let's do that. All right, Shadia is going to take a break, and I'm going to go ahead and leave it as a surprise as to what she's going to come back as, but it's going to be cool. That's all. That's what I'll say at first. Now, we've arranged this for you guys. I will give you a hint as to what it is. We talked about the bikini and how we use that piece of clothing as a measurement, as a kind of visual indicator as to what the body's doing at that place on the human form. And we use that as to contrast, hey, if that diagonal is working that way, look at the twist in the shoulder. And these are the tricks of life drawing. This is what we're looking at. It's really easy to look at the form and then just freak out at all the things you don't know. But life drawing is how you learn it. Again, in Steven Silver's book, it's wonderfully shown. I'm going to go ahead and do a pitch for another great anatomy book. Again, these are not paid endorsements. I just love these guys, and I want to help you live your best artistic life. This is my buddy Joe Weatherly, and this is his guide to drawing animals. This is a fantastic book for those of you who are like, you know what, humans are fun, but I'm an animal person. I want to know how to draw those quadrupeds. There is no better, I've found, than the Weatherly Guide to Drawing Animals, of which this is one. There's many copies of this series, and it's fantastic. And you can see just on the cover the approach of just, you've seen this before, right? Loose to tighter, and all of a sudden it's magnificent. The same rules apply to animals. I bring it up not just because it's a great book and you should get it if you're interested. I bring it up because the rules are the same. The rules are the same. Organic forms are organic forms. And so learning how to draw them, learning how to draw human anatomy, you will see the relationship between our muscles and our bones and our tendons and the wonderful way that nature designed all of us living creatures here on this tiny little wonderful garden we happen to inhabit. I'm also going to I want to talk really quickly about the difference between an anatomy piece. I recommend these. You guys some of you may already have one of these. These are useful. I take a photograph of it and I then, pose it out, and it is useful. This is not, however, useful for, this is kind of it's great for posing. It's great for those of you that just want to get to that pose. But I'll tell you this is far more useful after you have studied your actual anatomy, all right? This is, of course, the famous human figure. There is a woman as well. I happen to have the dude. And this is detachable. I want to recommend this. Again, not a paid endorsement. But this is just some of the tools we use to remind you. It's not a replacement for life drawing, but it is a great reminder. So the ideal situation are young artists that want to break in. Start out with life drawing. Get together with your friends. Find a really clean, really cool place for a model to come to. Treat them with great respect. Get them to show you the forms. Draw those forms, and then learn that stuff. Men, women, models, clothed and nude, or approaching nude. If you're in if you're in a super professional place, that can take that in a way that is respectful for everyone and won't trigger anybody. And then work your way up to kind of having this stuff around, so that you can just constantly be kind of showing yourself, what does the head look like at that angle, right? Just, oh yeah, what does the head look like? Oh yeah, there you are. They'd be looking like Hamlet. Oh, alas, poor Yorick. These are invaluable. They show you the muscles and how it all goes, right? you're like, this angle's tough, right? Nobody likes to draw this angle, but it's invaluable. I use this on my roast. I use this angle constantly. And when you can go here dramatically, it's fantastic. You can actually pull this kind of angle off. It's great. A lot of people can do this. Tough person, chin down. A lot of people can do the 3/4, but stuff like this is where the life drawing comes in. If there were questions, please post them in the chat from this point forward. I'd be happy to answer specific questions as we give. Absolutely. Yes, Michael Cooper, as you guys can see, it's talking about force, tension, and gravity. And yeah, that's absolutely the case. If you, even from our last poses, you'll see how I'm focusing more on shape relationships today. But yes, what is it that creates those shape relationships? It's force, tension, and gravity. There's a great artist, Steve Houston. Steve Houston is one of the best of the best of the best ever in the history of humankind. He has some great books out. If you kind of find him online, you can Google Steve Houston. I believe it's spelled H-U-S. I don't think it's Houston like the city. Steve Houston is amazing for force, tension, and gravity and lighting. He's a great teacher. Like I said, one of the best in the history of humankind. Should be, I'm sure he's in museums, and he will be long after we're gone. But check out his stuff for force, tension, and gravity. That's the real super deep stuff. For those of you who want to get into comics, this stuff is invaluable. It really will separate you. There are so many great artists out there these days, and it seems like there's more than ever thanks to the internet bringing us all closer. So what's your edge, right? How can you differentiate yourself from all those artists we see on Instagram that paralyze us with their sheer number? One of the ways you can do that is by giving yourself the tools of life drawing. Learn about these shapes, learn how the body moves, and really be a disciple, be disciplined, right? That's where that word comes from, discipline, disciple. Commit yourself to this. If those of you that can, there's great rewards. It's been absolutely, it's wonderful, the life of an artist. I wouldn't have done it any differently. And the way that we sustain ourselves, the way that we continue to get ourselves paid in this business is through commitment to the fundamentals. And what do I mean when I say that? When you have these days, during the pandemic, it can be an advantage, right? Can't go all the places that you may have gone before. So you know what? Where to put that time? Some of it, sure, you're going to give it to social media. That's just the nature of the algorithm. But for whatever time you can steal back from those corporate forces stealing your lives, give it to yourself, give it to your art. Alan Moore has a great thing that he says, a quote that he says about our relationship to our art. I'm just gonna paraphrase it, but basically it's something about, I think Shadia is back. Real quick, I'll finish this Alan Moore quote. Approach your art as if it is a supernatural being, because it is, right? Like an angel or even a demon, right? It's a powerful, powerful force that can affect your life for better or worse. So respect it that way. Don't just consider it something that you're flaking on, right? Don't treat it like somebody that you're ghosting on. Treat it like someone that you have to respect, and you will get some great results from that. It's definitely worked for him. All right, I think we're almost back. All right, and there we are, Shadia as the classic Elektra. Fantastic. Wonderful. Awesome. Thank you. All right. So there were a few different costumes that we could have done. Shadia and I talked about which one to do, and I love this costume. Not only is it fantastic and has lots of cloth for you guys to check out, but check out, building on what we talked about in the last pose, look at the indicators that this costume gives you, okay? The indicators on the thighs. Look at all those wonderful circles going around her thighs, up her arms, at the knee, right? At the wrist, all those indicators. The reason why Frank Miller designed this costume the way he did was for efficiency and power. It's a wonderful costume. It's what we call a subtractive costume. It isn't about building up gun packs or shoulder blades or, shoulder plates or big old helmets. It's subtractive. It's down to the human form. It accentuates the anatomy. and it's a classic as a result. Shadia, what do you think? What do you think about the first pose in this costume?
Well, I can change levels, but if you want me straight up and down, I can.
Yeah, let's change levels.
You want to do levels?
Yeah, that'd be fun. So we're going to give Shadia a moment to change levels.
And I'll probably go a little horizontal since we've been doing mostly vertical.
Great.
Get a little glimpse of my apartment. Let's go this way. Hopefully nobody gets dizzy. Does that translate?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. And let's just make sure you can't see too much of my apartment. There we go. Fun times. Okay. There we go. I'm very tall, so I gotta make sure I have enough room.
No, take your time. I'll go ahead and let me know when you're ready. I'm going to go ahead and, it's so wonderful that with this character and this costume, that we would go horizontal, because that's Elektra, right? She doesn't stand still. Elektra is very much left, right. She's very horizontal. She's very dynamic. She's dashing across the panel. And so for those of you who are thinking about dreaming about creating your own characters, think about that relationship. The great Steve Ahn, the great story artist who is so responsible for the success of shows like Korra, Ben 10, and others, one of the great things he talks about is when you're composing your pieces is this a horizontal story, story moment, image, picture? Is this a horizontal? Is it vertical? Is it diagonal? Well, Elektra is rarely horizontal, right? She's usually vertical. I'm sorry, she's rarely vertical. She's usually horizontal or diagonal. That's just the nature of her. When she's vertical, just by the way that the wonderful storytelling that was done with her, especially in the early years, you know that when she's vertical, she's about to go horizontal or dynamic or diagonal. And so
I think also when I did the starter poses, I did the vertical version of what I'm going to do now. So it's nice to like get that idea of how the anatomy starts and being able to manipulate that and see how it can translate into like vertical to horizontal.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure.
And also props and cushions for your models, like comforting food.
That's right. Take note, everybody.
People.
Take note, everybody. That's right. Having props, cushions. Go ahead and think about what you can do for your model, not just what your model can do for you.
Ding ding ding.
And snacks, dang it. Ask them what they need to refresh themselves during the session. What do they like to drink? What do they like to snack on? Everyone's different, I'm sure.
All right, can you see all of my limbs?
We sure can. All your limbs are in effect.
So did you want freeze or do you want longer?
You know, for this one, I think of 5 would be great.
5? Okay.
You cool for a 5 on this?
I sure am.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, a classic Elektra. So again, let's build on what we've been talking about. I would start with the head. I would go ahead and give myself that classic human head shape, whether it's a circle, whether it's more of the Buscema egg, whatever you like. And then I would take that spinal line, that line from the base of the head all the way through the torso, indicated by the belly button. Life drawing invaluable because it shows you where the belly button is on a pose like this, right? Look at why do we do the belly button? Why do we focus on that? Because it's the center. We want to know the centers of the shapes, right? So that's the center of the thoracic region. We go ahead and sword slash that with our stylus. And then we notice how the belly button, if you follow the line there, it goes right to where the bottom of the thigh is, right to where the base is. And then you follow that sword slash along, say that 5 times fast, from the belly button to the thigh. And then look at that wonderful curve below the knee, right? That it curves up. There's this wonderful little high-speed turn that the body makes up into the shin region. So note that and then slash right through it. Don't get caught up on it, but do catch it, right? Kind of as you're slashing, you can slash through, and then that's a secondary line, kind of a little tick up, and then follow down. Again, notice the curve where the lower leg meets the heel on that right leg. Note that, kind of give yourself a quick little slash curve there, and then go out to the foot. Now, Rob Liefeld taught us all that you can be a millionaire comic book artist and never have to actually draw feet. And that is probably still in effect. So if you're not going to draw feet, you definitely, this is a great opportunity to practice what kind of the ballet slipper, right? There are kind of lots of different foot gear that heroes wear. And this is a great example of the slipper style, right? This is the ninja. This is the stealth character. Shape language is a whole different conversation we could get into, but I'm not going to belabor it now. Just notice that nice soft curve at the toe, and then back up the leg. Back up the leg. Now, just as we had that uptick at the lower thigh, look at the down tick at the upper shin and calf, right? So you slash up to create the lower leg and then back down, right? The body is a symmetrical, an amazingly symmetrical creation, right? So we went up at below, now we're gonna go down above and then up the thigh. And now here we are back at the sash at the waist. Now notice the relationship between that sash and the, God, wonderfully held pose, Shadia. At the waist, and then look at the relationship, that kind of arrow. Kind of look at the negative space right now. You've heard Shadia talk about negative space. Here's a great example. Negative space in between the rib cage and the sash at the waist. See those big red forms helping us see that? Frank Miller giving us a real lesson in anatomy years after he created this character. That wonderful diagonal there. Notice the arrow. See how it's an arrow, the negative space? Use that. Use those shapes as we life draw, and you'll see this in Stephen's book. He uses this brilliantly. Don't just look at the body, look outside of the negative shapes to see what the body's doing. You'll notice another arrow on her left arm. If you look at her left arm holding the sai, you can see that if you look at that big red shape, the gauntlet, and then her lower left arm, if you look at the negative space between there, it forms an arrow pointing to the right. In fact, her arm does as well. And it's really kind of two arrows. This brings me to one of the fundamental composition rules that I am so happy to have inherited from my friends at Disney: point and frame. Okay, again, point and frame is more about composition of an entire scene rather than a body, but it can still even be applied to life drawing. Pointing, where are we pointing and where are we framing, right? If you go to a wonderful website called animationscreencaps.com, once again, animationscreencaps.com, you will see wonderful examples of pointing and framing, just like the one Shadia is giving us here. That character, right now, Shadia's Electra is pointing. Is that us? No. Shadia's Electra is pointing. Where is she pointing? Off frame, right? Off camera. We know that Electra is after something. We are being directed toward where the scene is going. And this is another great thing about life drawing. Life drawing, in approaching it, we will know not only how to draw the figure in a way that keeps our readers interested, we will also learn storytelling. There's a lot of storytelling in this shot, right? Electra is not sitting here ordering from McDonald's. Electra is about to kill somebody, right? And so what kind of poses tell us that in one simple image? What kind of poses let us know where the story is, right? Life drawing has the answers for all of those solutions. Great pose. I have to applaud for that one. So as Shadia resets, I just want to remind you guys, animationscreencaps.com. There's one more book I want to show y'all. This is from one of my favorite people in the world and a great mentor. Many of you have heard of him. This is the great Ian McCaig. Ian McCaig, a grandmaster, a Spectrum grandmaster. This is his classic shadow line. Hold it up, right? This is the classic shadow line. This is an amazing, amazing book. And let me just see if I can find some beautiful examples. Yeah, so, right, Ian McCaig, ladies and gentlemen. Ian McCaig, an amazing life artist. Ian, at this point, this is what happens when you commit. This is what happened. If you look at Ian's early work, his early Dungeons and Dragons books from the 70s, you'll see the development of a young artist who had committed to life all the way to the beautiful images you see before you. This is the result. This is waiting for you if you apply yourself to life drawing. This is the level of stuff you can do. So Ian McCaig's shadow line, that was just 2 images in what is a treasure trove. D&D players, this is a spell book. Okay, I guarantee you there are spells in here that you want to know. I'm gonna get, you know what, Shadia's giving me a great idea. I'm gonna go get a quick drink of water and I'll be right back. better. Hi, Michael Cooper. The name of the detachable anatomy statue. That is a great question. This is kind of Human Anatomy Male. What is the company? Here we go. Andrew Kars. This is the Kars Human. You can find it at www.freedomofteach.com. Freedomofteach.com. If you let me spell Kars for you because it's a unique spelling. C-A-W-R-S-E. C-A-W-R-S-E. Andrew Kars. That's a fantastic piece. It's copyright Andrew Kars. And so go ahead and freedomofteach.com. There are dashes in between the Freedom of Teach. If you Google Andrew Kars for Freedom of Teach, I'm sure they will bring you to this fine fellow named Bob in my studio. Hi, Bob. What's happening, baby? Just teaching. Shadi, what do you got for us next?
Well, I thought it'd be kind of fun to take those anatomy poses that I did at the beginning and show how it could translate into animation.
I love it.
Cool. So before, when I did this, how I could translate that maybe into more of like a character, comic book, animation, gesture. It's more of like a running pose.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you want me to stick with the 5s?
You tell me.
Okay, yeah.
All right, cool.
Okay, so I'm going to set up here.
All right.
And I'm tall, so I can figure that out.
Awesome.
Pause that for a second. Draw.
For those of you who may not have drawn yet, I want you to go ahead and rethink that. Go ahead and grab some stuff and drawing. For those of you who are drawing, good for you, but you don't want to miss this one. All right, here we are. Nice and open. Now, look at the relationship between that right elbow and that left knee, right? That's our first action line. And when we're drawing life, we're looking for the big forms. We go from large to small. Painters, you know this rule. You go from back to front. You go from big to small, right? So here we are doing that. You got that wonderful arrow. Let's look for those arrows again. Look at the natural arrow that is being formed by her right arm. It's also kind of a trifecta. With the side, you've got a triple shape. You've got the sai itself, the upper arm and the lower arm. Note that, right? That's how we're thinking when we're thinking about the big forms. We're thinking about the entire thing, not just the fingers, not just the little end of the sai. That all comes last. Life drawing is about those first impressions that your brain makes, the first moment of hearing a sound, the first moment of seeing a form. So that's what you capture, boom. And then a nice big solid form in the thoracic. Again, use that belly button up to the base of the neck as the indication of your curve. See that curve from the base of the neck down to the belly button? I would slash that just like a sword with my stylus, shoom, shoom, nice curve. Then I would go ahead and use the sash, that wonderful Frank Miller sash that he's given us. Note the sash. You notice it was just kind of a horizontal. Now, look at it. It's an ovoid. It's a sphere. It's a curve, right? That curve indicates to us how we're going to take everything we know about the pelvic and hip and thoracic connections down into the thighs and where they fall in this drawing, right? So you look at the back of it, you look at the relationship between the upper leg and the back, you look at how that's kind of in, and it also is in on the other side. It's tighter on the inside, of course, than it is on the outside. And when I say inside and outside, what do I mean? On the inside, I mean inside of the body, her left side. On the right side is the outside. Note that soft curve from the rib cage down into the upper thigh, down to the knee, and down into the foot. So go ahead and mark those big shapes. Go ahead and make a sphere at the sash, and then go ahead and follow that. Ignore the hanging sash for a moment. What's more important for life drawing is that thigh, right? And again, look at what happens to the curves, those sashes on the thighs. They become vertical at that point, right? Look at the difference between the waist sash and the sash on the thighs, right? They all are going different directions. So use those to indicate, we would use those to indicate shape and form. Getting back to tension, like Michael Coates was talking about, getting back to tension, look at that shoulder. Let's go back up to the relationship between the chest and the shoulder. right? That's where you see that press back, that tension. Look at the effect. Now, look at that shoulder muscle. It doesn't look like most shoulder muscles you'll see, right? This is why we life draw, for those unexpected relationships, the relationships that we don't normally see. Sports photography is another good place to check out these kinds of things, but nothing beats life drawing. Nothing beats looking at a model, working it, and showing you how those muscles go in these particular areas. Anybody can draw that kind of those heroic shoulders that we see in comic books. Very, very few artists would be able to bring this into play. And so again, why do we life draw? One of the reasons is to give ourselves advantage and implant ourselves in the business, help ourselves stand out and find a place so that we can get paid to do what we love to do, which is draw and create heroic fiction. Let's talk about the Shadia's doing a wonderful job with her head right now. Look at that face. Look at the relationship between the neck. Look at the chin to the base of the neck. Right. Once again, the negative space is another kind of arrow. We go straight up that neck and then out to the left onto the chin. Look at the shadow. This is another thing. Light. We didn't have a lot of time to go into light, but here we'll do it right now. Look at that light that's not there. Right. It becomes shadow. And look at the relationship between under the jaw and the neck, down the neck, how that becomes a nice soft shadow and then trickles down like a river all the way down to the clavicle. And then look at that light shadow between the clavicle. We would indicate all these things just with the tap of your stylus, just a little bit of shade, right? Once again, now since we're up there, look at the clavicle to the left shoulder and then look at that diagonal. Great. Wow, that was a great one. Thank you, Shadia. Great pose. Great. Hey, Shadia, I'd like to take a moment to, I'd really love to educate our artists about, again, what are kind of best practices when you're working with a model, what's not to be done when working with a model. I'd love for you to explain that for them a little bit.
Yeah, I think that something that kind of gets lost in translation is maybe something that's not thought about is the empathy for the human body.
Yeah,
I think it's really beneficial, and I can always tell when an artist has taken poses themselves. You know, especially like a lot of times in animation, they could ask for like 30-second poses for the course of 3 hours. It takes a lot of creativity on our end, generating at such a fast pace, but also our bodies take a toll. And so I think just like being mindful of what the model does need and being mindful of their breaks, as well as bathroom breaks. You know, I'm just trying to think of things that really have, you know, stuck out to me over the years. I've done this for a very long time. I think sometimes artists don't think that we need the bathroom or that our muscles could really hurt in the requests that they have for a pose. And also, if you are taking a photo for photo reference, which a lot of artists do, and it's wonderful, be mindful to ask the model their rates and their consent prior to taking the photo. I haven't met a model that doesn't charge for the photo reference, but sometimes if, you know, we catch artists taking our picture without asking or paying. So those are things that off the top of my head.
fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much. And you guys, so how do we show that empathy, right? Well, if you'll notice, that was a very athletic pose that Shadia just gave us. So I took that time. I was like, you know what, I'm not going to go right into the next pose. I'm going to ask her to talk to us about best practices instead of just saying, hey, okay, next pose, right? You approach your model as a human being with needs, and that was a very athletic pose that we just saw. So that's a great time to ask, hey, how are you doing biologically? You know, do you need the bathroom? Do you need some liquid? Do you need some snack? Right? That's how we do it, guys. That's how we just be cool.
Yeah.
What do you got for the next one, Shadia? Which is going to be our last one, you guys. So let's make it we'll make it a nice short one. Unless there's any last remarks you want to make, let's go ahead and make them now. We'll probably finish out on the pose. Okay.
Well, I was gonna either do that back pose, or I can do something that's a little bit of a different angle, a classic Electra illustration.
Which one are you feeling?
Kind of feeling the funky little angle. Just
Okay, cool.
a bit of a bird's eye view.
Nice. Let's do
Bird's
it.
eye view, for those that maybe aren't familiar, are pretend you're a bird and you're looking down at something, and what would that view be? So it's from a little bit above.
Awesome. Great. This is great. For those of you that don't have How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, that was the first place that taught me. That was the first place that taught me Bird's Eye View. It's still a great book. It's still absolutely useful. I'm using it to teach my cousin in Tucson how to draw on weekends. And so thank you for mentioning Bird's Eye View. And you guys, that's another great book to recommend. Not a paid endorsement. Just want to help you guys out.
Let's see if this works here. Show that to you guys. Okay, am I in the screen enough?
Yes.
I'm really trying to.
Yeah.
Oh, props to artists that are tech savvy. I can't even.
You're doing it.
There we go. Oh, my left to right is really wonky. There we go.
Yeah. It's opposite for me too.
Is it?
Yeah. No, it's good though. You're good. I was talking about. All right, nice.
Okay, so that's the one. Mm-hmm.
Cool. This is great.
Yeah, a little bit of an expression too, because expressions are really important in, telling the story of a character.
Yeah, that's right. And since we do have, since your face is featured in this pose, let's go ahead and use that.
Whoa, wait a minute. Technical difficulties.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, Shadi. All right, everybody. I just want to draw everyone's attention to the hands on this one. All right, look at this wonderful opportunity to take a look at the muscle structure and bone structure of the hands. Okay, those size. Again, look at the knuckles into the fingers. The first thing you draw as a life artist is you go ahead and you capture the overall shape from the bottom of the wrist, that nice kind of U shape, that wide U shape, and kind of carry that up into the knuckles, right? It's kind of a big, overall, it's, you'd call it a rectangle. The rectangle, though, is wider at the top than it is at the bottom. That's how we would break that down. Always break it down into its simplest shapes. From this nice soft rectangle that you've drawn, narrower at the bottom, wider at the top, then you start applying, you go ahead and make a line across for the knuckle line. Note the relationship. It's not just a straight line, but we would start with a kind of curved line. Look at the pinky knuckle, talking about the right, her left hand now, the one on the right of your screen. Look at that left pinky knuckle. I'm sorry, the right her left pinky knuckle, and then the relationship between the index finger and the thumb, right? There's several different ways we could approach that. It's kind of a tilde for my Spanish speakers. It's kind of a tilde if you look instead of a straight line. Now let's look at the other hand, okay? Kind of an under line. It's kind of a straight line. You could use a straight line. I'd always recommend a curve. Look at the relationship between that that middle finger knuckle, the knuckle to the first digit. Look at that relationship, right? Look at the way that those bones go down toward the wrist. Great opportunity there. Now let's go ahead and talk about the head shape and face, the expression. This is a great opportunity for you to check out the relationship between, let's talk about facial measurements, okay? Note that look at the inside of each eye, that space where the nose is. As life artists, we're always thinking about our measurements. Different faces are different measurements. And so, but we do know that there is basically another eye in between those two eyes, measurement-wise. Especially, it's a little bit different now because there's a bit of an angle, and that's great because it shows you how subtle and fragile these measurements are. And that's why we draw life, so we can constantly kind of train ourselves to be able to capture in a way that beguiles the mind and eye of the viewer into what we want them to be thinking, right? This is an emotional expression. So, what is electrothinking? How can we put soul into the drawing, right? How do we put life in the drawing? It's not just about forms and shapes. Ultimately, you want to know this because this is the best chance you have at creating an emotional response in the viewer. Okay, and that's our game. That is what we do. We've all been suffering through this pandemic, right? Where do we go a lot of the time to be comforted? Fiction. Some of us here at Baltimore Comic Con, we're all about heroic fiction, right? We want the the heroes to strive past their own limitations and the obstacles put in front of them by all the scumbags out there in the world and bastards, and we want them to overcome, right? So if we, in order to engage your reader, in order to get that job on that book that you want to draw or on that show that you want to be on, your art has to create an emotional response. So look at the emotions in that face and realize how life drawing, it takes it from just drawing shapes all the way into capturing emotion. And that is it. I think that's how are we doing on time, Alec?
1 minute left.
1 minute left. Okay, great. So relationship between the mouth and the teeth. All right, look at the lips and the teeth, you guys. Look at that slight difference between the top and bottom teeth, and then check out the measurements. When you're drawing lips in life drawing, you can go for it once, but on a pose like this, it's kind of great to go for it a few times. This is another technique we use. Instead of trying to go for it once, and kind of belaboring over that one attempt, to make several attempts on the same piece of paper or same file. Just kind of draw it and then scoot the file over to the left if you're drawing digitally, and then try it again. Look at the way those lips wrap underneath, how they tuck in. Look at the relationship, the differences between the top lip and the bottom lip. Look where the teeth come. How much teeth you show in a pose is going to be that difference, whether it's snarling or sneering or smiling. Thank you, Shadia, for a great session.
Thank you.
That was fantastic. Thanks so much. It was great to work with you.
Yes, likewise.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. So that is an introduction to life drawing. For those of you who are veterans who may have been here kind of lurking, I hope you had a great time working with the great Shadia Elise. And I hope that I was able to bring some clarity for those of you. And I hope I was able to inspire some of you to go for it. Shadia, one more time, where can they find you?
You can see my name right in my screen, Shadia Elise. My Instagram is the best way to get a hold of me. It's just my first and middle name that you're seeing, with an underscore in between. So Shadia_Elise. Gmail is also perfectly fine with me. And that's my first name dot my middle name, Elise, at Gmail.
Awesome. Thank you again. Take care. And everybody, have a great time at Baltimore Comic Con Live. I'm out.
Bye.